Hello there, and welcome to my little arty corner here on YouTube. My name's Angela Porter, and you can see this straightening up as I talk. That's better. Right, autofocus lock. Hello. It's Sunday afternoon here, Sunday the 28th of August, and I've actually got my heated seat pad on because I'm actually feeling quite chilly. It is a mere 15 degrees Celsius here. It's cloudy, so there's no warmth from the sun, and I can't believe that it's closest to the coldest day recorded in history for this day in August, which is bonkers, but I'll be fine. I'll soon get warm, I'm sure. So I hope you're enjoying your day, your evening, your morning, your week, whatever it may be. And as you know, you're all most welcome to join me as I draw something. And I'm grateful for those of you who've subscribed, who've left me lovely comments, who've liked my videos, who've watched my videos. It always amazes me that people do. I know. You'd think otherwise, wouldn't you? But no, I'm still gobsmacked. So thank you ever so much. Right. What have I got here? Oh, we're going to have a quick look through this sketchbook journal thing. I haven't done much writing, but I have been accumulating stuff because I don't just draw on videos, I'll draw at other times. And seen up to here, because this is the one I did in my last video. It's upside down because Numpty here didn't check which way round her paper was. Does it matter? No, because these are equally interesting this way up. So there we are, non-directional. This one though is one you won't have seen. And I've drawn this with coloured ink, and it's waterproof ink from Octopus Fluids, and it's absolutely lovely. The inks are lovely. I've got lots of little bottles. I think they're 30 or 10 milliliter bottles, and so there's not much in them, but there's more than enough for a long while for me. I've got quite a few until I work out which colours I really like, which means I'm going to end up with an awful lot of ink bottles, because I'm the same with the diamine ones, which are water soluble and not waterproof. So these are drawings I did, inspired by stuff in the Ernst Haeckel book, and some just from my mind and other things, just to try these inks, because I can put them into fountain pens, but I have to clean the fountain pens out when I stop using it, there and then. So if I'm not going to draw with it anymore that day, or for a short while, for more than just a short while, I have to clean it out, otherwise it can wreck pens. I'm not prepared to do that. So I've used dip pens for this. Yeah. And I used chalk pastels to add colour. I did use graphite as well to add shading here, but I really didn't like it. So I went over with some chalk pastels, and they sort of work quite nicely. This one I've only done a small amount of colouring and shading, because sometimes that's enough to get the idea. Like here, this gives me an idea of what these would look like when I had shading in this one. And these are fun because they really do look like curved up bars. As you know me, I like to play with shape. I did use two different colours here. I used this lovely green, which was green ostrich. Yes, green ostrich. This one was green crane, I think. They're all named after animals, by the way, all the inks. And you've got strange things like a violet giraffe. I think it's a violet giraffe. And a red, is it red? No, brown penguin. Red tortoise, I think is. And they're just fab. It's so cute. And you've got a little picture, look like this. This one here, green squirrel. So you've got a little drawing of a squirrel on there. I'll turn it into the light for you. So cute. And this one, green tiger. Yes, I know tigers aren't green, but green tiger ink is. So there. So, then this was one I did. Again, this wasn't with Octopus inks. This was with the diamine inks. This is Twilight. Yes, it is. And I was just drawing just to see what happens. I like these shapes here, and I'll may come back to those. I started this one. This is with a pink colour, Octopus Fluid. No poop Sherlock there. And it's got a very delicate kind of feel to it, the drawing. Interesting. I've never done that before. And then this isn't done with dip pens or fountain pens, it's done with a Zebra Sarasa vintage colour, sort of like, I think this is sort of a purpley colour. It's supposed to be a purpley colour. And I think I may do some of this kind of stuff with you. Though these are really nice. And I love this kind of stuff here and this here. So let's have a look and see what my pen wants to do. And I will keep that near me, but not on my desk, because I want to try and keep my desk space here as free from clutter as possible, because otherwise I will knock bottles of ink over. I'm going to use Green Tiger to begin with. I do need to shake these up because they do have some pigment in them. Now, which dippy pen should I use? This one is it's from Cohesi, which is, I think, the shop. And I fell in love with this pen as soon as I saw it. It's got a fountain pen nib on it. And so I had to give that one a try. There was another nib I got to go with the handle, which is just basically a standard handle, so any of the nibs I have. So I may use that one. I've got this nib, which has got a little bit of flex in it. I'm not quite sure what manufacturer it is. I've got many nibs like this, or its name or anything. There's there. And then I've got this one, which is slightly different. I know this is a Kuretake manga holder, nib holder, Kuretake manga nibs. Yes, I do have some of those somewhere. But this looks a particularly new nib, so I don't know where it's from or what kind it is. I'd guess it doesn't matter. So let's go for my fountainy pen one. It doesn't seem to want to hold a lot of the ink on it, which is fine. It'll hold as much as it needs to. Okay, so if I don't like it, we'll change it. I'm going to start by drawing some wavy lines. The thing about dip pens is you do have to dip them into the ink fairly frequently, depending on how well they hold on to the ink. So what I've done here is, on the line I've drawn a kind of smaller leaf shape in the inside, then I've put an aura around it, but I've made it along the line. So I'll do this again. So leaf shape, and I'll zoom in. I'll fill that in. And then I'm going to add auras from the points of the leaves. This one, I did get them at the point, but I'll add 2 auras on just to see the difference. And on this one, I'll make one side thinner and the other side more curvy, plumptuous. So an asymmetric kind of shape. And let's have a look. I'm going to start the aura a distance back along the stem. And any of those would work for tendrils. So how do we create branches? Well, you just go along the stem and draw lines out in the direction you would like them to go. Now, because I know I'm going to put different shapes on here and so on, I'll want to leave space between them. So instead of a nice curvy shape, how about if we put a kind of stretched out diamond? That's quite nice as well. And then what about a rounded shape? So this one is kind of at the end of the line, or end of the frond, as it were, so I'll just have a bit of that flowing off there. Here's one that's a heart shape. It's upside down, you know. Doesn't matter, you can have it either way. And just to prove that point, put a teeny tiny one this way. And we'll have a couple of auras on that one just to compare it. Put as many on as you like. And then at the ends, I think I'm going to sort of cap them off or finish them off with a little circle like that. So of course some of these tendrils could come from behind a leaf like that. So what can I put on the bottom here? How about a kite shape? Like that. So it's a diamond shape, but two sides are longer than the other two. Again, I'll put a stopper on there. Oh, we're going to go peanut shaped now. Apparently that's what my pen wanted to draw. Like so. So it's kind of like a little ivy leaf, sort of a lobe out, lobe in. So I'll do one again, a bit slower. Just leave them just like that. They'd be quite cute without the aura on. You could with all of the shapes really, but I'm going to go out with the longer lobe and then up, out with the longer lobe and up. You can make the tips as pointy or as roundy as you like. Mine are quite roundy today. I'm obviously in the mood for rounded leaves, leafy shapes, and then just going to aura it. And again, just pop on a little cap. Like a holly leaf. So these are like letters M's and W's, but with a curve between the two sides. So I'm going to do a smaller one inside it to fill in with ink. This pen does put an awful lot of ink down as I'm writing, which is fine, I don't mind that. Then we can actually go back and add some weight to these lines. Start to bring some dimension in if we wish. Don't forget the little stoppers. And this one, I think I'll put a solid one. There we go. So all of these lovely frondy things. And you can have them obviously going in any direction you like. I've put lots of variations on here. I wouldn't do that actually in a design. I'd want to keep it consistent. So the one I showed you in my book is kind of like this or like this. And that seemed to be the right thing to do. You just have to follow your instincts and work out, well, I feel this is right. And even if you realise after you've drawn it, you think that doesn't feel right, carry on working. I know that when I draw, I get to a point partway through drawing where I think, oh, what on earth am I thinking? This is awful. Why do I bother doing this? And then I just go, come on, Angela, we've done this before. We've been to this place. Just keep going, just keep drawing. And I do, and eventually I go, actually, that's turned out not too bad. Sometimes things turn out and you just think they're never going to work. No way are they. And they do, and sometimes they really don't. But that's okay because it's all about learning and learning more about some kind of intuitive feel for what is right for you, and how you like to draw and do things. Right, I've drawn a stem here and I have kicked these sides out just a little bit. And this is going to be interesting because I'm going to go up, around, and back down like that. So I'm drawing a kind of fan for that kind of shape. And I am going to just make it look, I suppose, a bit like a leaf there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a little bit in from the out from the bottom edge. You can see what I'm doing. And I'm actually having stripes coming from along this edge. This will end up looking sort of mushroomy or leaf-like or seaweed-like until I'm beginning to run out of ink on the nib. And then here where it starts to go down, where I can't get to the edge, I'm just going to have the loops going in there. And I find this really interesting as a shape. It's an unusual shape I haven't used very often in my drawings, but I do like it. So another way of drawing it would be to start with a little blip downwards. Helps if I have some ink in on my nib. And down, round, and back up. And yes, it's not symmetrical, but I'm fine with that. I really am. And what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to start partway along the edge, come down, and I'm going to create a bit of a, I suppose, an aura to part of this. Bit of a double border like that. Because what I want to do here is I'm going to take some lines, starting at this little bump here, and I'm going to have them bending in opposite directions. So they're going as if they're beginning to turn round and go back to where they began, as it were. I'm not quite sure that makes sense because it is a lot easier to show than tell. So like that, yeah. I'll do the same on the other side. So I'm going to start fairly close to this, and close at the bottom or at the start, and wider at the top. And then do the same here and here. Come to this side. Hopefully this is all dry over here. Said there was a lot of ink on the page, so start close together at the bottom, a little bit wider at the top, and then I don't think I could fit one in there easily. So I've got that kind of shape going on, and if I wanted to, I could have a stem coming down from around here, from the middle, whichever I would like to do. And just for some kind of completeness, like so. I'm also going to draw some shapes inside. Trying to keep a consistent distance from the outline of this shape or leaf. It's not too important if you waver a little bit. Perhaps I'll go around the outside first with some shapes, and then I can come back and fill the rest in afterwards. But I'm trying to vary the size and the shape of these sections as well. So they're not identical and there's variation there. Of course, you could make them all identical if you wished. You know, it's your art. This is how I prefer to do things. Let's get a bit more ink before it starts to run out. So I've kept the bigger parts of this kind of mosaic towards the middle and the top there. I do have space for a little one there actually. And then, do I want these to appear like they're sticking up or like they're holes, like a network going on? Well, if I'm working here, I'm going to go to the top and the right of each one. I guess that's part of the right as well, isn't it? Sometimes it's hard to know, and the best thing you can do is to use your best judgment. These look like they're holes in there. So I didn't get a video done yesterday. I was thinking about doing one on Saturday, but I was so tired when I'd got time to do this that I ended up in bed. Story of my life at the moment. And I slept for about 4 hours yesterday afternoon. When I got up, I was a bit shell-shocked. I also needed to feed myself because I was hungry. And by the time I'd done that and gone to a meeting online, not a work meeting, just a collection of like-minded people meeting, I was so tired. It wasn't long before I was back in bed, about 10 o'clock last night. Oh, heck. Oh, no, it is unshot. Oh, there was me thinking, oh no, there's something awfully wrong here. I'm just going to change my pen and colour. But before I do that, I just want to wash my nib and get this ink off. Because it's waterproof, it will stick to the nib. It'll always come off with a little bit of work with my nails or whatever, but I prefer to get as much off as in my nails or my hands before it has a chance to stick too firmly. I'm more interested that it doesn't stick between the split part of the nib and cause problems there. It's got quite a lot on it, but it's fine. I always dry them because they're made of metal. Okay, so that one was the green tiger. Let's have a look at the green squirrel because I can. And there's a reason why I want to use a different colour. I think this one might be a little bit darker. We'll test it out. So I'm going to try this nib. I haven't used this nib before. So this could be an absolute disaster. These can also... very different feel. It's there's some flecks in it. It's a bit more scratchy than the other one. It's a kidney shape without the little bit in the middle, but we could have in the middle a little stem. As soon as you do that, it looks like a strange shaped apple. Well, to my mind it does. And I'm going to add some stripes, like this perhaps. This is definitely a greener grey or greyer green, blacker green I think. Definitely not the same colour as the green tiger. I was going to say green tomato. And yet this is the first time I've used this ink for drawing with. I'll eventually work out which ones I really like. This is nice. I prefer the greener tiger. Lots of stripes in there. And I could just sort of like add shading or colour to them, but I think I'm going to just come back and do some little lines to fill the alternate stripes in. And I may look for where the stripes sort of like bend down and then bend out, bend inwards, bend out. Where they bend out, I'm going to make the lines that little bit further apart and get them closer together where we've got bending in, perhaps a little bit further apart there, and then starting to go together like so, perhaps trying to work with some idea of highlight and shadow. This one's just all the same now, there's no ups and downs in this part, but we're getting to an uppy bit. With this one I'm just going to put plenty of lines together close to the edge, and I'm going to allow these to just move apart as I go towards the middle. Same here. I don't know if that works. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At least I've tried some things. So what about having this perhaps not quite so wide, this shape? So that's my top of that shape, isn't it? Instead of stretching out, I've squashed it in. And let's have a look. I've made a bit of a mess there. This nib has a desire to go where it wants to go, not necessarily where I want it to go. There we go. I think I'm going to just put a circular shape there, and then I'm going to have perhaps some lines coming off like this. Yeah, I tend to do them alternate from one side to the other as I go. That way I can make sure I've got the same number of them on each side, which for some reason is something I like to do. So I've got this one, and then we can go back and fill these in with pattern or colour. So I'm going to put little seeds or little beads in here. The perk of it, Zentangle. Like so. What I haven't done to any of these lines is add line weights at the end of them. So I think I will do that for the others. Just see how it all works out. Like that. So that's a bit different. So that was a different shape in its own little way, which I quite like that. Okay, a different kind of shape, but similar, is where I'm starting at the top with a pointy bit. I'm going down to each side like this. Then I'm going to go up, give a gap, and back down. And it's kind of more like an arrowhead shape than this one was. It's a variation. It almost looks mushroomy, so we could turn it into a mushroom. But I'm going to perhaps give it a little frilly top here. And then perhaps lines that go down to the points along the side and closer up. Which does make it look a lot like a mushroom, so let's turn it that way. There we go. So we've got a weird mushroom going on there. Allied to this kind of thing, sort of, here instead of this kind of idea here is where I'm going to draw mirror image shapes. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like this. We'll put another line. When these are side by side, I can see how green the green tiger is compared to this green squirrel. Squirrels are known as squiggles by me, because they look like they're making squiggly motions as they move. They're little jerky movements. Squiggle just... There we go. And then that would have shadow underneath it like this. Like so. So it's like a window through to something underneath. And the same would be true for this one. And of course you can make these any shape you wish. Squarish, diamondish, weirdish, whichever. And you can have as many pieces in the centre as you wish. Big and small. Again, I'm going to go to the top part of the right, depending on which angle these lines are at, just to fill that in. And on this one, I'm going to put some spiky, well, rounded spiky bits out. I was going to say they won't do you any harm, but then if you think about a piece of Lego, treading on it in the middle of the night. Remember that as a child? So my brothers had Lego and you'd often find pieces left all over the place. Or rather you'd find them because you'd step on them in the dark. Many a shriek was heard, and the air would occasionally turn blue if it was my father that trod on one. Wonderful things, Lego. I was watching a YouTube channel I quite like called Half Asleep Chris, and he went on holiday to Italy, and during his holiday, all the famous places he went to, he spent time building Lego models of these places, you know, some very small. He didn't manage to do the scooter on a scooter though, because he said that wouldn't be safe. But he built the last part of the video, they rented an apartment that overlooked the Colosseum, and he spent a couple of days there putting together a Lego model of the Colosseum. And it was enormous, and it was just so wonderful the way that the Lego was put together. And I just think, yeah, was I want to do Lego? No. Do I like watching other people create things from it? Yes. Especially when they're very ingenious and clever and imaginative and all the wonderful things. And you think, blimey, I never thought you could have done that with Lego. Some stop motion stuff done with Lego as well, which is amazing. Some very, very clever people out there in a way, in a creative way with such things that I'm just in awe of them because I know it's something I can't do. And I've dabbled with stop motion drawing. And that is quite fun, you know. want to do some more really for like a single design instead of something like this, which is a page full of lots of different stuff, some of which isn't on my other pages, you do know that. This one just doesn't feel quite right here. That space in the middle is just that little bit too big. And of course I'm using a different colour ink to put this in, so perhaps I could just go through the others and just put an extra line in between them in the different colour, and it would then look right. Possibly. Like so. Oh, that. Now those extra lines really have brought this down, so it looks almost like a funnel, which means that it would be fun to have this kind of shape there. Perhaps with some lines that go down this way. Put some others there. So I just needed to add something to this and it went in a different direction then. And just stood back from it. The lines at the bottom are a bit confusing, but adding colour and shading will really help with this. Okay, and talking of shading, I've got quite a few done here. I haven't got as many as I normally would, but it seems to take forever to upload a video on YouTube these days if they're more than an hour. So I thought we could do something with that time. And I may come back and add more to this. I didn't refer to my book over there for ideas. So let me just get those out of the way. I've got my inks here. I'm going to put them back in their little box with their friends. I've got some boxes and stuff to start sorting everything out and to get stuff out of trays and put things I need to put into longer storage for need bigger storage and things like that. But that is a story for a different day. It's not something I'm going to do today because I am absolutely shattered. And I slept through to nearly 10 o'clock this morning. I did have a couple of wake-ups, but nothing for long. I was asleep way before 11 o'clock. Excuse me while I just blow my nose. Is it cold? I've now got a drippy nose as well. Okie doke, so I'll put my jar water out of the way. I have got some kitchen towel here. Oh, I've got an itchy head. And I have my Gansai Tambi, the Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolours here. The Art Nouveau set, because it's the only set of these I have. And let's have a look at what we can do. I'm going to use some of the greens. And I've got a water brush here, which I think will be perfect for this. So I'm going to start with this pea green. I'm going to stay away from the ones I've just drawn on. And I'm going to go over here. Now I am aware that these can be quite powdery when they go on. Out you go. Go, move, move. There, back over. Yes. But let's have a look. So a little bit of colour here. And that kind of colour. And perhaps a little bit darker towards the top, just to get a bit of a gradient going. That looks quite nice. Yeah, even though the areas are quite tiny, it's still quite nice to put some colour in. It helps to bring it out from the background. Just add a little bit of a darker green on the top there. And go back to this lighter green and just blend that in. Add a bit more of that lighter green. Actually, that's not too bad. It's just that little hint of colour makes just a difference to these. This one, I'm going to put lighter green inside. And then I'm going to get some of the darker green and just pop that in the outside bit. Like so. And then what I'm going to do next, hopefully, fingers crossed. I have got a tortillon. Yep, that one's been used for graphite. I am going to get some graphite. 6B is a bit soft. 4B might be okay. So for this one, I'm going to put some graphite at the top and the bottom of each side of this leaf. I'm just going to spread them out a little bit, like so. And then I'll pick up the slightly darker green I've used. I could put pink here. I'm just going to add that over the top of the graphite. And where the graphite is, we naturally get a darker tone of this colour. Tone, whichever, darker shade. It automatically darkens the green, which is all good. Okay, could use any colours on these. In fact, I might just do another one just for fun. Top and bottom I'm doing because such small areas we might as well keep it quite simple. Try not to get any of the graphite on the ink, because even though the ink's quite deep in colour, because so much of it went down, I still don't want to alter it in any way. And I'm putting a green gold on the top here. It's lovely green gold. It's one of my favourite colours. So, and this one, a bit of shading at the top and bottom. I've got highlights on the edges so it will look like this is fading up and down. And I'm going to go for this lovely Mars, I think it's Mars orange or Mars yellow. It's a lovely rusty kind of browny colour. Taking me a while to pick enough of the colour up to make much of a difference. But again, that with the underneath graphite, it just works quite nicely. This one, top and bottom. Perhaps moving it down a bit further right on the outside edge. So we've got two of these here, so we can afford to add a bit more shadow on the outside. And then for this, because it is kind of a seed shape, I'm going to use this I think it's scarlet. It's either scarlet or vermilion. But it's a really bright orangey red colour. Still not picking up enough of the colour really. It's a fine line between having too much water flowing from the brush and not enough, and I'm on that line between having just enough and too little. If I see squeezing a little bit will add a little bit more. So I'm getting a lovely range of colours here. I'm going towards the more autumnal colours now, aren't I? Which makes me happy. We're coming to the end of August. So here in the UK, it won't be too long before we start seeing the autumnal colours coming out, which I will love because it's my favourite time of year. So I've added a lovely velvety red there. But you get the idea. This one, I'm going to add shading along this top edge and all of the stripes. Like so, and I'm just going to move it down perhaps a little bit further on the outside edge than the others, because I've got a lot less space with the others, and I just think these outside ones would perhaps go, the shading would go perhaps a little further down. The thing is, if you do it and you don't like it, then you can try again and do something different. I've got stripes here, so I'm going to do stripes. I'm going to use this lovely green gold on some. So I'm going to use this lovely green gold on some, I am. so. And then I'll skip one to another. Again, I need to have this without too little water in, enough water in that the graphite will show through. Where the paint is thicker, it won't show through otherwise. Because these can behave a bit like a gouache if you use them with very little water in them. I don't want gouache, I want the shading to show through to add to this colour. So I don't have to worry about mixing colours and so on. And then in between I want a darker green. And I think I may go with this colour. This is a blue, but I think it looks green. It is a greenish colour. There we go. More of a tealish colour, but a bit greener than teal, perhaps a green teal. Is there such a thing? Well, that's what I'm calling it. Go back to it and pick some more colour up for the edge where I want it darker, and then I'm just going to move this out so it's lighter. And do the same here. Now, kind of logic dictates that I'm going to use this colour for the stem, but I think I might go for a bit of brown there, because why not? And I may just add a little bit of that green that I've just used in there as well. Just dab it in, so we're getting a brownier kind of green, I suppose. There we go. So we've got that going on. So that brings that one to life in a different way. Now the nice thing about this, once this is dried, I can go back and add pattern over it. And I prefer to do that this way with the Kuretake Gansai, because they cloud over ink and the ink can go backwards into the background, which if that's what you want, it's brilliant. But it's quite nice to draw on the top of them so that doesn't happen. Depends whether you want the pattern more visible or more as a hint of pattern, I suppose. This one, okay, I don't use this blue colour very often, so I'm going to use it here because I can. So I'm going to put plenty of this colour at the bottom here where these lines are all close together, and then I'm going to start fading it out towards where there would be a highlight, which is around this area here. You can see where they sort of like reach their top and begin to go over again. So that's where I want to highlight. And then I'm going to use that colour again around the edge. Hopefully I'll pick up some more colour so it's a bit darker. A bit more now. This is sort of greyish blue. Yes, it's an unusual colour, but I'm happy with that. And these could be plants or things that grow on an alien world. You know, they're coming from my imagination mostly, so, you know, welcome to my weird world. Except the odd thing is, I don't see these or picture these before I do them. It's almost like I sit down and I just let things flow in a more intuitive way. If I try to draw what I'm imagining or what I'm thinking about doing, because I don't imagine in pictures, I imagine in words, then sometimes I do get an image, but not very often. Then I can be very disheartened by what I've created. Now then, I can see that I need a little bit more darkness on up here, and a bit more on this side, because they would be more in shadow. There, a little bit more around the edge. And I do want a darker colour here. Now then, I'm looking at what I've got as dark colour. If I can take the lid off, I can see the colours. I'll take this out of the lid because I've got the lid here. I've got this colour, which is green grey. shadow green, the billiard green is the one I was using. It's greyish blue. I was right with the colour, Mars yellow, not Mars orange. But I want a colour that will darken this down. I think the shadow green might be my best bet, because I really want to go quite dark inside here. Just going to take some of that paint off so I can just blend it out a bit and keep this quite dark down there, but have it gradually fading out a little bit to here. And then that's giving me that gradient that I'm looking for. So it does look like I've got that nice dip going on there. I think I am going to have to pick some of this up, and I'm just going to have to go back and forth here just to ease this out a little bit more. Trying to keep most of that highlight, but I can always remove some of this highlight, some of the paint that's there. I can use gel ink to go under there. On the outside I really like something that's quite different, so I'm going to go with this dusty purple colour, this vintage purpley colour. Old mauve, there you are. That's what it's called. Looks like old worn velvet, doesn't it? But it is lovely. And I do want more colour at the top, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of this grey blue. I'm going to add that into the mauve, which hopefully will just add some shadow where I want some shadow here. More to this side, which I'm fine with. It's not so much there. On that edge, I'm going to use saffron yellow. Just here. I haven't picked up enough yet. Come on. This may pick up some colours from around it, and I'm fine if it does that. So there's that. So that helps to bring that one to life. So let me move my stuff over so you can see what I'm doing. This one, let me work with this one, because it's the holes I want to work with, and I really want to get them dark towards the top and right. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to push all the colour back there, so that will be where the darkest region is, and I'm just coming back with a clean brush. I'm just adding some water. If I can dab water in here, it'll repel the colour, it'll leave a nice dotty thing. That's beginning to look like it's glowing. Right, I need to go and do something. I will be back in a moment. There we go, back again. Alright, so with that, I've just done the colour straight. But what I could do, especially if I dry my hands properly, is I'm going to put some shading where I want the darkest parts of these. Some graphite, and just work it in. I don't want the whole area here really filled with graphite, so if that's what happens, it's what happens. Really just where I want the darkest shadow to be, and some, might be a little bit at the bottom. I'll leave that one as it is, and I'll do the same kind of thing now with that same colour here. Needs a bit more, come on Angela. And we can see the difference then. Sometimes it's nice to do pages where you just look at the differences and just see what happens and work out what you like. Yeah, I know I'm not using chalk pastels. I said in my last couple of videos I really am enjoying them. I am. But I've also had to use them in some way because I've been using water-soluble ink. This one's waterproof. So I've got that colour. So what about another colour? What else could work in there? Let's look at this lovely rich blue. Cobalt turquoise light. Just trying to get some of that colour down. And then this one is Pale Aqua, which is quite a pale colour, hence its name. I'll put some in there. Now that is going on a bit too thick, so time for a bit more water on my brush, so I can pick some up and move it around as well, like so. My favourite is this, and I actually prefer this without the graphite, but it may just be that I've got more colour on the bottom one than I have on this one, so I'll add a bit more colour. And I may just try to use water here just to spread this out and make it lighter, like so. That's not so bad, actually it works-ish. For the outside, I just put some shading right the way, just at the very edge, around the whole thing. And I may do this, would do this with graphite or with chalk pastels, to be honest. And just perhaps coming up and through these. You can see how little is needed to make a difference, hopefully. You can see there, so we're getting some shading. Bear in mind we want to leave a highlight, but I don't want to change that too much. Chalk pastels would work really nicely because you could choose a colour that mixes in. Okay, so this one I'll do, and then I'm going to call it a day with this, the video. So I'm going to use coral pink for these. Actually, before I do that, let's very quickly do some shading with the graphite. So I want some shading underneath here, some here, and up the side, along the bottom as well. Bear in mind where I want my highlight around here, and it feels like it's bending, sort of like up that kind of way. So let's have a look and see if we can do that. Keep it dark towards the edges and just pull it up enough as you need to get that highlight in there, or to preserve the highlight, but to get a nice kind of gradient going. That's what I'm getting there. So let's go back to this coral pink. Perhaps I'll do some stripes. Start with this one. And we can always go back and add more colour if you haven't got enough. You can take colour away as well. Now with this, my eyes are going really weird because I'm thinking my paper's bending upwards. And once if I start noticing that, then the illusion must be working. So that's quite nice, but I'd like some stripes. So what colour shall I use with that? Ooh. Go with a greeny colour, I think. Let's go with this one, the cobalt green. It may not work nicely, but I'm still going to use it. Now that picked up a lot of colour very quickly, so I'm going to clean my brush off and use my brush to pull some of this green colour out so we can see the highlights. That's a surprise. I didn't expect it to pick up that much. And that's barely a wash now. There we go. So now I've got too much water coming out the brush, but that's what happens with these water brushes at times. If I can get it just right, just the right amount of water flowing, they're a pleasure to use. There was some kind of system of sort of like a dial or something you could do to set the flow rate from almost nothing to a flood, I suppose. I'm not so fussy on those colours together, but I do know I can go back in and add a slightly different pink over this one. So I'm using a darker one here. It's not perfect, it's not going to be nice, but, and some of you might think it's nice, but it's not to my tastes. But if I hadn't tried it, I may not have worked that one out. The top, I'm going to go back to saffron yellow. I'm going to use that up here. I haven't put any shading in. Just put the colour in for now. So that's my least favourite. Yeah. And of course I could carry on working with all of these. Said I would want to go back possibly to put some patterns in this one. Let me just zoom out. Oh, let's try zooming in. Wrong way. There we go. So with this one, I would like to add pattern on it. And perhaps with this one as well in alternate or every third section. This one definitely. I think to hide that pink, because the yellow needs some work on it. I like these leaves, how the colour adds to them. That's really quite sweet. And this comparison of these has told me something. I do like that, but I'm not a fan of graphite shading in the first place. That one looks mucky, dirty and darker in there, like a bit grungy. This one looks cleaner, fresher and new. I guess it depends what you like. It's personal preference, isn't it? Personal taste. Very muted kinds of colours, and by muted I don't mean pastel, I mean less saturated. And I do like them. I like that purple and blue, and I like all the way the yellow there, because this is saffron yellow, which is a really bright yellow, but it looks almost green next to them. And colours do change next door to each other. They look different. I like these orange and brown ones here, orange and red, and they're really quite, the light, you know, the yellowy green, very, very autumnal. I'm getting that feeling now, especially as it's been quite cool today and cool overnight. It's got that autumnal nip in the air. I mean, you know, no doubt once the schools are back in the UK, we'll have a heat wave, because that often happens. But I'm quite happy for it to be cooler. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this and it's given you some ideas. Carry on working on the shapes and variations for yourself and see what you come up with, how to fill these shapes. Using Zentangle patterns, contour lines, anything you like, how would you put them together? And if I go back and very quickly, I'll show you. These are these, variations of these here. It looks weird, doesn't it, with all the different things in here. There's that coherence. But this is a sketchbook page, this is a drawing. Did I do any? I didn't use anything from there. Oh, these are taken from this. And these are here, kind of. And this shape is from here, kind of. This. But instead of double stacking it, I just did it like this. And you can, oh, there you can't even see. It's from this one. And I double stacked it there. It's a single stack there. Turned it upside down as well, because you can do that. And you could do that with these, you know. She says, coming back very quickly. Okie dokes. No, I need an ink or a pencil. I need glasses. Glasses. So instead of having the stalk at the top, we could have it at the bottom, like that. Same here with this, where it goes like this, and can add something in on the other side as we could here as well, to create a kind of flower. So these could be petals, like so. Just to adjust them. So there's nothing to say we have to keep them. You know, the way I've drawn them, you can turn them around and do anything with them. I suppose you could even have them on the side if that took your fancy. And see how I've moved that dip there closer to one side than the other, and then we can have that as a stem on the bottom perhaps, and this then could have perhaps a bean shape, or maybe we can create a flower from it as well. This one would be interesting as it is. So again, we've got a long shape like this, and it's going to go up, down, up, down, and then perhaps we can have something growing out the top, perhaps something. Part of me wanted to put a claw on the end or turn it into a tentacle, but I behaved and turned it into a weird kind of stamen. And again, with perhaps petals or something else on there. And then I can work with those, and I'll finish these off and show them to you at some point. You know, it's because it's all fun. Same with these, you know, this kind of thing. With those holy bits can happily be turned into a flower of some kind, like so, instead of having, you know, the usual things. We can put the shadows in underneath there, so we've got holes inside, so it's almost like at the top of a seed pod, but it's in the middle of a flower. So there's all kinds of possibilities. And you know, the things like, I put this one here, but what about having one like this that perhaps has that kind of leaf shape on it? Nobody says you can't do that. And the other nice thing is, if you really bend these leaves, you can actually bend this in a really nice way and have the centre going through it, and it really does look quite dimensional. It takes a bit of doing, but you can do it. You can do it. And all's a lot of fun with it. So have fun. A few more ideas. I filled the page. Look at that. I will finish them and I will show you them, just not now. So I'm over an hour, and I suspect YouTube might make it be 2 hours to upload, or 3 hours, or some such thing, because it's done that to my last couple of videos. One, it was trying to upload for 4 hours and it got nowhere past about 20%. Yeah. I guess it doesn't want us to make long videos much. There we are. So as I've said, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed time with me. I hope that what I've said has made sense, and that you'll give some of these designs a go, and more importantly, use them in your own drawing and make them your own. It's just a starting point, just some suggestions. So until I see you again, take care and be creative. Bye-bye for now. Bye. Hoi.